Excellent. Well, good to see you all come in today to this call. We'll be starting here in just a few moments, and as you come in, please put where you're from in the chat so we can see St. John Garfield Heights, working with that congregation there. Loretta, so great having you on this call here today. And David, yes, from Jackson, Michigan. Wonderful, excellent. Thank you so much. That's another congregation. Now they're in the fall colors kind of part of the country. That's for sure up in Jackson. Mark from St. Paul, Minnesota. Thank you very much for being with us here today. Excellent.
What's happening, Mark? I know,
we're
Mark.
gonna we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna have a word of prayer, and then we're just gonna jump into this whole thing. So, Father, thanks for the chance to get together today, have some great conversation with Adrien here. Beautiful ministry, wonderful impact in communities, in the lives of children and families through your local church. And so we just thank you for that. Bless our conversation, bless the words, but also give all of the people who are listening hearts that hear and want to be a part of serving these least of these in their communities. And so we lift this up to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Friends, again, thank you for being with us. I am Bill Woolsey of FiveTwo. Some of you have been on our calls before. Others of you, this will be brand new for you. So let me just kick off and tell you a little bit. We are a nonprofit ministry. We walk alongside churches. We help them make an eternal difference in their communities. And we do that through a 2-year process that mobilizes their whole people around a compelling vision and really helps them see what God is already doing in the community, where He wants them to partner, but more than that, in a way that doesn't overwhelm their staff, doesn't burn them out. So it's this great mobilizing experience that we've been a part of since really about 2015, but especially in the last 5 years. You know our heart. If you've ever had anything to do with us, our heart is more people getting introduced to Jesus, meeting our Savior, and everything we do leads to that. Which brings us why I'm excited today to have as a guest Adrien Lewis of CarePortal Ministry, and we're going to jump into that here. This ministry is a perfect example of something that helps local churches mobilize their people, but really do something that brings blessing to their local community. And I want to kick off, Adrien. I'm just going to read your bio here for everybody, just because it kind of lets them see you and your background. We're always excited when we get to be a part of people who have had a varied journey in careers, but now they're landing in a particular place that's really geared especially for Jesus and his church. So Adrien began his career as a business development professional, spending a decade working in healthcare, technology, and education. That's a great blend.
Mm-hmm.
In 2007, a mission trip to Haiti with his wife, Cynthia, transformed his perspective and deepened his calling. And we'll talk about that. Over the next 3 years, he volunteered with the Global Orphan Project, where he witnessed firsthand the power of connection in caring for vulnerable children. In 2010, he felt a clear call from God to leave the business world and fully dedicate himself to advocating for orphaned and abandoned children. This journey led him to become a foster and adoptive parent. So firsthand experience for all of you who are listening in that realm. And ultimately to develop CarePortal, a care sharing technology that mobilizes communities to take action for children and families in crisis, creating meaningful connections that change lives. Adrien, welcome to the webinar here today.
Thank you very much, sir. It is an honor to be here with you.
Well, the question I would just jump off with, which is what I asked you when we were talking a few weeks ago about this, getting ready for this time. I had not heard it before, and that is care sharing. So could you just start the whole conversation by telling us what is care sharing?
So good. So I want you to all to know that you've never heard the term care sharing. That's okay. You certainly have seen it, experienced it. It is not a new idea. The principle here is that seeing and serving our most vulnerable neighbors is a command, a call, an opportunity that we all have. And as believers, we should be seeking that out. In our country, um, for many people, that foundation, that center point has been lost. There's many people who they open and close their garage door, they deal what's in front of them. They literally don't even know who their neighbors are. Never mind make it a part of their everyday to see and serve those people. And so we thought a couple years ago, how might we develop a category, some language, because language helps to shape culture? How might we develop something that can package this idea of mobilizing neighbors to see and serve their most vulnerable neighbors? And we thought about another organization who did something very similar about 10 years ago. Uber. Uber connects riders and drivers. That's what they do. And
Ride sharing, right?
ride
Yeah.
sharing, exactly, exactly. And so they were able to successfully create this category of ride sharing that gave people some language so they could understand, oh, this is a trustworthy thing. I know what it is. When I go to the airport and I see the ride sharing arrow this way, I know what that means. And so how about we give the same kind of framing to this, where we leverage technology to help connect people in need with people who want to help. And that's called care sharing. And with that framing in mind, we can build something that goes way beyond the CarePortal. It becomes part of the culture that we are about. We are about care sharing. And churches one day won't wonder what care sharing is. They will be embracing the idea that we have to have a care sharing platform because that's the best way for us to mobilize our people to see and serve their neighbors. Like that's what we're shooting for.
That is that's it's really, again, when you told me the first time, I was like, that makes perfect sense.
Mm,
And not only that, but this is an example of how God took your background
mm,
and said, how do you take your heart, but then your knowledge, obviously, of technology and healthcare, all of that, and blended it perfectly together
mm,
into this. And so tell us a little bit about the Care Portal. So how did
mm.
what does that look like, and how did that come into being? If you could, maybe just your little journey of sorts, how did it end up
Yeah.
where you are today?
Well, I love sharing and hearing what God does in people's lives. We are on a journey of sanctification, all of us, right? Being saved is a piece of it, but being sanctified, man, that's a lifetime of work. And in my journey, I didn't become a believer till I was 27. Didn't grow up in the church. Went on a mission trip to
Wow.
Haiti in my early 30s. And I'm on a field with my wife. You read about it a little bit, but the context there, if you guys can imagine, any of you who've been in a third world kind of country, I'm on a field in Haiti, and it's dusty, and in some ways, the hardest things I've seen from the way people live. The lack of resource that they have, just hard, and and yet at the same time, the beauty. I mean, the mountains that were there around this dusty field, and the people themselves, they're just the way that they embrace each other. I mean, the things that we care the most about in life really have nothing to do with the things around us. It's all about the people. And I watch these people care for each other so well with nothing. And so there's this contrast. I'm just like, be there with me. There's this contrast between beauty in people and the land and destitute. Like it's just empty. And these kids are walking for miles to get to school at this plot of land that we're at. And there's a vision for building homes for these kids so that those who are homeless or without family, like there's a safe environment. And I'm walking on this field with my wife, and I just have an encounter with the Lord, like a supernatural moment. I don't know who else on this call has had supernatural moments in your life. I hope you all have. If you haven't, pray for it because the presence of the Lord changes everything. And in that moment, I went from being a believer to being a follower. And going from being a believer to being a follower means things start to change in your life, you know? And they did. God gave us purpose. He gave us a vision beyond ourselves. And that vision included caring for the most vulnerable kids in the ways that we could. And so we began to change things in our life and became
Mm.
givers and goers and doing all the stuff that you do when God awakens something in you. And that led me to being very invested in the Global Orphan Project. I created some great friendships. That ministry's intent is to help local churches around the world care for the most vulnerable kids where they are. And 3 years later, they asked me to leave my company, which I was very happy with, Bill. I loved my company.
So,
I
so,
loved
so
it.
you, so who at you global this org asked you
Yeah.
to leave your company
Global Orphan Project. Yes, I
to be
became.
a part of their staff or whatever?
That's exactly
Oh,
right.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leave the business world, which I
Okay.
had no intent in leaving. In fact,
Right.
I I mean, I was climbing the ladder,
Uh,
and then
mhm.
the Lord injects this purpose, this whole another thing.
Mm.
And and I got invited to leave, and it's a beautiful story, maybe for another day, but I ultimately said yes. And that started my journey in full-time ministry in January of 2010.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's yeah, so let me just I'd love to just stop there for a second.
Hmm.
We're going to get to Care Portal fully, but so we work a lot with people like yourself who kind of sense that it's like God has brought all the pieces together, right? And there you made the comment of an encounter, a supernatural encounter. Sometimes I will use like a light bulb, right, kind of comes on. I actually appreciated your distinction of believer and follower
Mm,
in the sense of I come out of a background of baptizing all ages,
mm,
and then that faith is confirmed in you, and it is something that we often say. You used kind of an enlightening aspect. It's
mm,
kind of like all of a sudden, okay, I'm seeing the world differently, right? Which is a sanctification. That's a
mhm.
sanctification mark. So I just really appreciate that how God touched you on that field and said, okay, I have a different path. Maybe not as radical as Paul on the road to Damascus, but maybe
No.
when you said to your family, "I'm leaving this career," it felt that radical.
Oh Lord. I know this isn't the purpose necessarily of the call, but I'm assuming just about everybody on this call is a believer. And it is important to know that you can be a believer and not be following, right? There is a change that happens in a person when they begin to lay down
Mm,
their agenda, which
mm,
might even be a good agenda, not
mm,
a bad thing, but is it the right thing, for what the Lord has for you?
mm,
And for me, I was not following. I think following means you pick up your cross, you do some pretty radical things when the Lord asks you to, and it changes your life. The person I am today and the person I was that day in the field, we are not the same. And
mm.
I pray that's true for everybody who walks with the Lord decade after decade.
Wow. So you get invited to
Mm,
leave your business career, go into it's around 2010. You said go into full time ministry. And I think there, for those listening again, we're all, as Paul says in Romans 12, right? Our life is this act of worship. That's his picture for. It's Paul's challenge to us that we're constantly, really, I think in your terminology, you'd say we'd be following and
mm.
listening. But so you start that whole path, and what happens from there then?
Yeah, so we're uh we're traveling around the world doing some pretty hard things, some pretty amazing things. The earthquake in Haiti happened in
Mm,
2010, and it, I mean, literally shook the earth, and so many people's lives were lost and changed as a result of that. And I got super involved in all the things. We were then ended up finding ourselves in Uganda, uh, in Lira, Uganda, specifically in that summer, August, I think, of 2010. And we're working with churches in Uganda to help them build their capacity to care for the most vulnerable kids, the orphan and the most vulnerable. And so I'm at this pastor's house, and he's got this beautiful round hut. For anybody who's been to Africa, they have these beautiful, simple structures there. And we're in this round hut, and there's couches in there, and we're serving tea, we're having conversation, and out of nowhere, I have this thought, like a sentence. And the sentence is take the foster care class. Like those are the exact words, Bill. Take the foster care class. And at that time, I barely knew what foster care was. We were a little adjacent. We had some families we helped a little bit who were fostering, but we didn't really, there wasn't that much there. The ministry had nothing to do with foster care, the Global Orphan Project,
Mm,
no
mm.
presence in the US whatsoever. And so I text my wife and I get home from this trip and I'm wrestling because what the heck? Take the foster care class. What are you talking about, Lord? And my wife and I had some confirmation, both of
Mm.
us. This is what we were supposed to do. And so we did. And so that later or early the next year, we started taking the classes. And Bill, I remember being in the second foster care class. And in that second class, hearing hearing about the kids who live in the zip code that I live in and the experiences that they have had. My heart broke for the orphan for the first time. What God had been doing up to that point was giving me a purpose, an assignment. But at that moment, He gave me this broken heart.
Mm.
And that broken heart became the underpinning of what can we do to help people in the US, churches in the US, churches in Kansas City in particular. What can we do to help them see and serve the most vulnerable kids in their midst? At the same time, the the leader, founder of the ministry, the Global Orphan Project, he was flying home from the Philippines actually, and he felt this conviction that we were supposed to stop flying over the kids in our own backyard.
Wow. I want to
Yeah, do
interject
what you
real
want.
quickly.
Yeah.
Our network, Adrian, has always and only focused on the US
Mm,
for the very reason I felt that churches they do a lot of good in foreign fields, but I felt it was very difficult to do good in your local field. And so we've always said, let's just focus on the US, even though we get opportunities and invitations around the world. We're just going to focus here for this very reason
mm,
that, our phrase is it's hard, your neighbor can be going to hell. And it's hard to stop and really have compassion there and say, what can we do about serving this person right here? So that's why, again, so excited
good.
as you've got your ministry. So you stop flying over the kids in the U.S. and
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah. Then, so my wife and I become foster parents and we start bringing kids into our home. At the same time, because we're doing that and our founder has this vision, then
Hmm,
I start to lead our domestic effort. Like, what do we
okay.
do to actually come alongside churches? We had no idea. And the truth is, for 2 years, we failed miserably to move the church to care for the most vulnerable in their city. And I'm going to say some hard things for a second, right?
Please,
They're
please.
not going to be, it's very easy for a pastor to read God's word, care for orphan and widow, right? Very easy to
Hmm,
read that, to know that the church has the responsibility to be the ones caring for the orphan and widow. And in our country, the orphan is tied to the foster care system. That's
Okay.
the infrastructure we've got. So that's where you're looking if you're trying to serve the orphan in our country. It's
Interesting.
very easy to say, yes, that is the command. We should be doing that. It is very hard to stand up in front of your congregation and say, people, open your homes. You have an empty bedroom, take a kid in.
Mm.
It's very hard. It's so hard. And we got a lot of pastors saying, great idea, but nobody's saying, let's do it. Because if you're not willing as a pastor, if you don't feel called as a pastor to personally bring kids into your own home, it is very difficult to stand up in front of a church, your church, and ask other people to do it. There are a few exceptions, but not that many. And we got met with this resistance for 2 years. That was
Y-
very discouraging, honestly, Bill. It was very discouraging until I got to understand that, man, it's deeper and more complex than what I thought it was. And I went from being bitter towards pastors for not answering the call to being compassionate to the actual circumstances that they find themselves in and learning from pastors who were having success. And one of those pastors was a guy named Bishop Aaron Blake and his wife Mary, who live in Texas. Somebody connected us, and come to find out, they not only brought 6 kids in themselves, fostered, they moved their church in powerful way to get super engaged. That church has fostered and adopted over 300 kids in this small, poor
Wow.
black church in Brownwood, Texas.
Wow.
And they moved their county. They moved their county to be the first county in the state of Texas to have more children, more families waiting for children than children waiting for families. It
Wow.
was huge, huge, brother. It can happen. So I'm getting there. I'm getting to CarePortal, but you got to understand, like, there's so
Well,
much here before you
I
get
no,
to
that's
CarePortal.
fine. That's fine. No, no. But I want to click on one other thing.
Yeah.
This is so cool because I didn't know all of this. So all of you listening, this is a first for me. We talk when we work with churches and people. Our core question for them is, whom are you most compassionate for?
Mm,
That your heart breaks for that person. That nobody has to motivate you to go care for that. It's just your heart. It's your heart language. And
mm,
we take it from the feeding of the 5,000, where it says they land on the shore and Jesus had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And it's that compassion value that drives him, still
mm,
drives him today, right? But so we want people to really dig deep on that and say, who is it? What does that person look like? And so for that to be something that you articulated here,
mm.
that of just having compassion. And you actually, it began when you changed your view of the pastor. And
Yes.
that's also one of the things that happened to me from a different way. I used to get frustrated with pastors who would not go start things or help ministry start because we knew that was critical in reaching their community. And I finally, I couldn't say it was some voice from God that was probably the Holy Spirit, and it
Mm,
was all intermingled in me. But it was the aspect of, pastors go to seminary to learn how to care for sheep. That's why they go. That's their calling. They don't go, in our phrase, to hunt for wild sheep. And I need to stop being bitter. I need to be compassionate. Say that's their calling. But then how can they support those who are looking to go external? So I really appreciate that. That's where you started to get traction,
mm.
was in taking a different approach from your heart with that leader of that congregation. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, last time I checked, bitterness doesn't actually change the world for the better. It just doesn't, you know?
So you met this pastor and his ministry and the impact he was having.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Yeah. Uh then we got to meet the state government in Texas because he
mm,
had influence there. And the state government for child welfare was open to working with the church to care for these kids. And so they taught us some things. And we had this like mindset that the only thing we could ask the church to do, like a 6 foot barrier, was how about you open your home to kids who need a home? That
A
was the
big
one,
ask.
the
That's a
huge
big,
six
a
foot,
huge
like
wall. Yeah, a huge wall to
off the
climb over.
screen,
Yeah. Yep.
huge
Yep.
wall. And even if you're successful, a small percentage of your congregation says yes to that, even if you're successful. So we're learning from the agencies, and come to find out there's way more that needed than just foster and adoptive parents. Caseworkers are drowning in trying to engage keeping families together and keeping families
Mm.
from reuniting families. And there's things way beyond being a foster or adoptive parent. And so, literally one day, 2 years in, I'm reading a document. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but here we go. I'm reading a document in my office.
And God says something. Yeah, I know.
This is what happened. This time, it was a vision, right? The first time, I felt the presence of the Lord standing in that field in Haiti. The second time, I heard a sentence in my head. This third time, it was just a vision, like no words, no feeling. I just saw leveraging technology to
Mm.
connect kids and families in need with churches in proximity that want to help. I just saw it. And I wasn't trying to see it. You know what I mean? I wasn't like on a whiteboard mapping something out. It just came as I'm reading this document. And I go to my team and I say, guys, I think God just gave me a vision for this. And everybody was like, that's the best thing I've ever heard. And
Mm.
we went for it. Like we totally went for it. And what it unleashed was, how about we get people in the church to know when there's a single mom who's in their
Mm.
zip code and she's doing everything she can to get her kids back out of foster care, but she needs some beds. And she doesn't have those beds. The caseworker can't actually bring the kids back. It can't happen. So if we could get a communication to church members who are in that community to be like, hey, do you have access to a bed or resources for a bed for this single mom? If we could share her story and in real time get hundreds of people to see that, would somebody say yes?
Mm.
And guess what, Bill?
Yep. They'll say yes to
They'll
that.
say yes. They did.
Right.
That 6 foot fence that
Right.
we had created is now like 6 inches, because people can say yes to that. And it's not just getting the beds to the mom. It's what happens when you show up at mom's house and you build the beds. You
Mm.
put them together. You have a conversation with mom while you're there. You hear mom's story. You have compassion for her as a person. You have an opportunity not just to provide resources, but relationship. And we call that a meaningful connection. That's what we call it.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, that's
what
your language there.
happens?
Okay. Meaningful
Meaningful
connection.
connection.
Okay.
Like we are pursuing, scaling meaningful connections through the local church,
Mm.
starting with providing some resources that a family really needs because a caseworker told us this family needs X, Y, and Z to keep their kids home, to get them out of foster care, to reunite, to stabilize a kinship placement with grandparents, like whatever. But these are real needs. They're vetted. They're legitimate. They're not like, oh, I want something, so I personally advocate for myself. No, a caseworker
I
from
see. Okay.
from a school or a child welfare
Okay.
agency or a homeless shelter, the caseworker has the app on their phone and they
Okay.
submit the need. And that unleashes so much trust
Yes.
to the
Yes.
church because they don't have to wonder, is this legit?
Is a
Like,
legit need or not? Right.
am I
Yeah.
really helping? You know what I'm
Right. Right.
saying?
Right. You said something and you're saying it here, but I want you to say it very clearly when we were talking a few weeks ago. The number one, you said something like the number one reason kids go into foster.
Hmm.
When I think about it, I would just immediately say, obviously, because they're being abused or something like that. But you said that's not accurate.
It's not. It's not, and it's so. it so much makes what I just said make sense. 76% of the kids who come into foster care come in because of neglect, not abuse. And that neglect can happen in lots of ways, but it's often correlated with poverty. There's often an
Okay.
underlying poverty component,
Financial reality that they
some
just have.
financial reality, right? There's often mental illness, there's often drug abuse, there's often lots of things, but there's often a financial reality that's related to it.
Mm.
And there's often an isolation that that family is experiencing.
Wow.
They don't have community. One of the things that I
Which
love,
makes this meaningful connections thing that you're talking about number one, right?
it's the home run. It's like the thing. It's the thing that matters the absolute most. But for sure, don't get me wrong. If the kids don't have beds and you get beds, if
Yeah.
the electricity is turned off and now it's turned on, those things matter. They're huge. But the transfer of hope happens when we take these moments of helping and we turn them into a meaningful connection. We turn them into like a movement of hope when you do it over and over and over and over again.
Mm.
There's such power that is here, and that's what we get to see. And I love your on your website. It's like you have realized people no longer are looking for an invitation to come to your church, come to us, right? But instead, this live local concept. No,
Mhm.
we, the church, go to them.
Amen.
CarePortal is a scalable mechanism for the church to go to their most vulnerable neighbor, to
Okay,
see
we
and
need to
serve
get
them.
there now. I don't want to run out of time with this. So unpack Care Portal. Here we are. Here we are. We've landed.
Yeah.
But exactly like you mentioned, an app was
Yeah.
sitting with the social worker.
Yeah.
But help me understand
Out.
now. Okay, so a pastor's on this call or a family
Yeah.
life director. What do we do?
Yeah. So simple. You can go to careportal.org.
And we'll drop
CarePortal.
all this in the chat too.
Yeah.
So we'll be putting these links there.
Go to careportal.org, and here's what it looks like for a church. You sign up your church. You build a response team. A response team would be up to like 1, 3, 10, 100 people, your whole congregation, doesn't matter, where they now are in position, they're on the platform, they get the app, they can download it. You have complete visibility to all the requests that are in your location. So in a 10-mile radius or a 5-mile radius or 30-mile radius, whatever you want to set, and
Wow.
you start getting notified of these requests from caseworkers who are part of our network, and the
Okay.
requests come to you, and you can choose, do I want to engage? No obligation, just opportunity. Do we want to engage on any of these requests? And the people in the pews have the ability to now go engage. And some people, they just want to give. And so there's a mechanism through the platform where they can do that. And we have some financial technologies called fintech that is baked into the system. I don't have to get into the details here, but it's a trustworthy mechanism to transfer resources. And some people want to show up for relationships. They want to go to mom's house. They want to go to
Hmm.
the grandparents' house, and they can get resources to go do that. Or they can use their own and go buy the bed if they want to. But either way, the Care Portal infrastructure, the technology, the network that we build, all of it helps a church do exactly what you say on your website. Like live local, go and see, because the resources are there. We just need to be hands and feet of Jesus.
Obedient,
All of
basically.
this.
It's
That's
just
right.
being, God provides these
That's right.
resources after our obedience so often.
Yeah.
So it is in that. Uh, yeah. So I guess as I'm thinking about this, and pastors, or if you're on staff in a church and you're watching this, it feels to me then like the pastor or that person would be praying for somebody whose heart is for this the children, the underserved children in their community. That's probably where I'd start and see who God brings to your mind. Maybe talk with the rest of your staff, your elders, and then I'd go public with that. You're looking for that kind of person,
Mm.
and then I would say you're going to want to help them build a team and get that team. but then you put them in touch with this, and like you just said, the care portal and the app, they can then start exploring. This
Mm.
is the way to mobilize the people.
Yeah.
So
That
Care
can I,
Portal's making it very easy for the
easy.
local church to care for the children and families that are underserved in their communities. And I love how you said in ways that are trustworthy.
Mm.
You don't feel like you're being scammed or something like that. So,
Yeah, I think you're right on, Bill. I would say that the order of things here is we start with where you are, right? So if you're a church and you have some kind of outreach ministry or benevolence ministry or something that's already going on, CarePortal actually can be a simplifier and accelerator of the thing
mm,
you're already trying to do. And
okay.
so who's already engaged there, right? Who on your team, staff or volunteers are already part of that? And that would be a great kickoff point. And when you
Okay.
go to the website and you enroll your church, somebody from our team reaches out to you and kind of walks you through, you know, do you have like what's your strategy as a church? How are things organized? And how might Care Portal come alongside and help you just amplify the things you're already trying to
Mm,
do?
okay.
That's the way to think about it. And building the response team comes after that. And we
Okay.
we have training resources for the response team and all the things that you need in order to just start with what are we already doing and how could this help us be more effective in doing it?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, one of the Loretta sitting here from St. John's, Garfield Heights. That congregation's a great congregation. They're actually embedded in a community underserved, but the church itself is 170 years old or something.
Wow.
And they're still there. We always
Yeah.
love it. You're still there. And she said, as a social worker by profession, this is awesome.
Mm.
So maybe let's unpack the other side of it. How do
Yeah.
you make sure? How can the church make sure that the local workers who are in that
Mm.
make sure they're aware? I would think they also have to be aware of Care Portal.
They do. It's great. So if you think about Uber that has riders and drivers, right?
Right.
Two sides
Right.
of the equation. CarePortal has submitters, those are caseworkers, and then
Okay.
responders. And those responders are church folks. We have businesses that participate and
Okay.
Rotary clubs, et cetera, et cetera. But on the submitter side, it's our team's responsibility. So Mark, who's on this call as an example, Mark Lenz, he's one of the staff that we have, and he and in St. Paul, and he helps to build these networks. So
Okay.
there's a person like Mark, where if you know of an agency or you know of a church or whatever, he would help to galvanize and train and do the things necessary to get them going. But for the most part, the people on this call, it's really as simple as, hey, let's get our church started. If it's not already using Care Portal, let's get our church started
Okay.
with just signing
With
up.
that. With that.
And there's no
Okay.
cost to churches, by the way. I didn't say this before, but there's no cost to churches. In fact,
Great.
most of the churches who use Care Portal, they end up getting resources that come from like the community where to help
You're
the
speaking
church
our language again.
meet the
That's yeah,
needs.
resources are in the community. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, we have this amazing infrastructure where people who don't go to a church, they actually give to help pay for the bed,
Mm.
as the example, and that money gets transferred to a church so the church who's close can actually show up to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Like the whole infrastructure is intended to center the local church responders, the people in the pews, at the point of care, but to
Okay.
get resources from anywhere.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, guys, again, just remember Mark 6 feeding the 5,000. There it is.
Mm.
Uh, I would just say to Mark Lenz, then, Mark, you definitely want to reach out to St. John's Garfield Heights. Another one would be St. Peter's East Point, Detroit. Lovely churches doing some in different areas of Detroit. That's excellent. Just excellent.
Mm.
Okay. Mark says, I'm going to deliver a high chair and set up a crib right after this call. So fantastic. Well, okay. So they can go to Care Portal. It's careportal.org.
Org. Yep.
Make sure you go there. We've got that in the link. We also then just had here, you've got a conference coming up in April. So what's the point of that? Who's that for?
It's great. So CarePortal is currently active in 39 states across the country.
Wow.
Yeah, and has 7,000 plus church response teams across the
Wow.
country who
That's
are
wonderful.
engaged. We host this conference in April to bring together church leaders and agency leaders and business leaders and nonprofit leaders because we partner with nonprofits all over the country to use our platform too. And we'll have 800 or so, maybe 1,000 of these leaders come together to be inspired. Like you're not alone. This work is hard, but it matters. So you'll hear stories from people and be inspired to be equipped. Like how do we go about doing this more effectively and what can we do to help move the needle and really be connected to other people who are doing the work. It's a fantastic opportunity to know that we're in this together. It takes all of us. So I would encourage anyone on the call to participate, particularly if you're part of a church and you're like, we want to get involved. It would be a fantastic spot to galvanize yourself and others to really lean into this work.
And is that conference there in Kansas City,
It is
Adrian?
in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
April,
easy
April,
center.
April
April.
20th to the 22nd. Yeah,
Okay.
and early bird ends at the end of this month. So if you want to register, you can save some money and get registered before the end of the month.
Super. And what's the registration cost about?
149 right now.
Great. Great price.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, for those of you, you might have seen this, but Adrian authored a blog on our site called What is Care Sharing? We'll put that link as well here into the chat. And so, if it's something you could share with your elders or other leaders in your congregation, just to start getting that language there, and it then will help you as you're trying to explain what can do. What we love on our side about the phrase care sharing is it's something that is this umbrella,
Hmm.
right, that has a lot of legs and can be used in a variety of ways. And yet, here in particular, it's being used in a very, I love the fact that it's technologically rich, easy. We talk about frictionless.
Hmm.
It's just so easy. There's no walls, as you said, to use it. So make sure you check out that blog as well. Share that with others as if this is something on your heart and you want to use it as a way to start promoting and moving this around. Adrian, any before we move to maybe some questions or comments, what have I, what have we not talked about that you would say you'd really want churches to hear about Care Portal, or if they're maybe sitting on the fence or anything?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess the exclamation point at the end here is be the church. In my heart, what I want to see is as many people follow Jesus as possible. And when we look at his word, and he says, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat, and I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink, and I was naked, and you clothed me. When he says that in Matthew 25, and he ends it with, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. I just want to encourage the church. Like when we do that, when we be the church, we bump up against Jesus
Mm,
and it changes us. It is part of the sanctification process. And my goodness, I'm not confident that we can bump up against Jesus in any more powerful way than when we see and serve our neighbor. Like it is the chosen path. So be the church,
mm.
church.
Be the church, church. Yeah, friends, I want to just reinforce that and echo that this is a way. Sometimes I think we, as Adrian said earlier, we have great intentions, but how do we actually carry it out? And we want to make sure you hear the practical aspects of this today. That if there is the passion, then how do you then live out that passion? Or ministries in your church that maybe are already in this stream, how can you make it even easier? And what I love about this, again, it goes to help mobilizing the whole church around this common awareness of what is happening in the community and how Jesus can be a part of that. We also know survey after survey, Barna did a recent one on when you ask people who don't attend church or they don't participate in church, they think kind of the church is out of touch of the local church. When you ask them what it should do, it's very clear. They simply say it should help those in need and provide for those who have not. And again, to keep in mind that when we are obedient and we're actually
Mm,
living out our calling locally, it actually resonates with the unbeliever.
mm,
And it's that whole going back to John 13, 14, 15, how look how they loved and that to love one another in a sacrificial way. That's the mark. So want to affirm that and encourage that.
mm.
Want to see Julie, Brenda, as y'all, any particular questions or as y'all are listening, those of you who are listening, any particular questions that you have that maybe we could put here and have Adrien answer today? You've already said there's no cost. You've already said it's a trustworthy platform. And you've given us some ideas on how to move this forward and roll this out. Any other particular questions that those of you who are on the call might have that we could answer? I think maybe we kind of answered them. Let me while they're thinking of that. So think of that. I would love. What would you say, Adrien? And I know you with that many states involved, but is there a particular church revitalization, church renewing story that just resonates with you in this ministry that you're going, wow, Jesus did a great thing
Oh,
through
yeah.
us in that church and that community?
Yeah, there's several that come to mind. One in upstate New York, Pastor Dennis. It was a small, simple church when they got started. Um, he's actually like from South Africa or something, but he's here, and small, simple church and got a hold of CarePortal and the seeing and serving of their neighbors and having an easy way to engage others in the congregation to do the same. It has transformed the way they think about themselves.
Mm,
It has transformed the congregation itself. So many people from the community who they met through serving them are now part of their congregation. And if I was to
wow.
just say, like,
Huh.
hard stop, your premise of live local, like your premise of go to them, what's the result of that? People in the community who didn't know Jesus, or sometimes do, but are totally isolated, they are now part of your church family.
Right. Right.
That story happens over and over and over and over again.
Okay. Okay. So, friends, hear that again. We talk a lot about belonging before believing
Mm,
and just that power of community and caring. And then it becomes a natural that as they are cared for by people who truly love them, regardless if they'll ever, be part of Jesus' kingdom, you're still going to love them and serve them. That's so, so powerful. We have a number of questions that come on. First of all, could you talk a bit about recruiting the team members to participate in this ministry? And you mentioned looking at existing ministries that might already be that would be in the same field or lane.
mhm.
But what about like let's say you don't have that?
Yeah.
What would you do?
It can still be very, very simple. And in fact, it can be the anchor to a ministry. So, to your point earlier, there needs to be a leader of some sort. Could be staff, could be a layperson, somebody who is motivated to take the reins. They become a church leader in our system, and we help them, like equip them
Okay.
to know what
So
it's
I would
like.
send that person, say, go here, and they're going to
Yeah,
help you. They're going to help you
totally.
move forward. Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yep. That's
Okay.
it. Simple answer.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah. So John, that answer is
Yep.
again, pray for that person with that passion, that
Yep.
leader God puts in your heart. Ask your elders, ask the group, who would y'all see if we wanted this person? Who would you choose? Take the person. We always say, send them an email saying, I'd like to have lunch or coffee with you to share something. Get them face to face, share about this thing. this concept and see about their responding. And then just hook them up, connect them with CarePortal, and they will walk them through the build out. That's wonderful.
And just
Wonderful.
to put an exclamation point on that, the hook them up with CarePortal is really just go to the website and submit the form. That's
Okay.
it. Like that's how it
Okay.
happens. Yeah,
It's that easy.
that
Okay.
easy. Yeah,
Jay Reed out in Sacramento, one of our catalysts, says, "How is Adrian's organization funded?" I love it. So there we
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Tell us how you continue to exist financially.
In a sentence, we have a public-private blend when it comes to funding. On the
Okay.
public side, agencies, government agencies, child welfare agencies, they have a very clear return on investment when they use
Well,
CarePortal. It brings off-budget resources and relationships that change the outcomes for the kids they're serving, the families. So they pay to have access and use of
okay.
CarePortal. That's one
Fee
fee for
for service,
service.
right?
And on the other side, it's philanthropy. We have lots of generous people who want to see CarePortal work nationwide and in their city. And so
Mhm.
they invest to help make this happen.
Friends, just hear that again. It's something we teach churches to think about fee for service and donative philanthropy. That's our model here at FiveTwo. That's Adrian's model. So just keep that in mind as you also, if you're having sustainability issues, what would that look like in your model? But that's trustworthy. Also, I would just say if there's something on your heart, hey, become a donor, become somebody who helps fund this much needed ministry as well. One last question here before we sign off. Victor Belton, Victor sitting over in Georgia, or maybe you're down in Florida now, Vic. But anyway, is there any interaction with schools or homeschoolers? Give us a little
Yeah.
thoughts on that, Adrian.
And yes, we have over 1,500, we call them agencies, signed up in our platform. Those are the ones who submit requests.
Okay.
And the highest percentage of them is actually schools. Schools
Oh,
make up
wow.
about 25% of that. So
Okay.
the schools have caseworkers and social workers, and they see kids' needs
Hmm.
all the time. So yes, as far as homeschools are concerned, this would be such a great opportunity for like a homeschool co-op to get involved.
Yes.
That's how
To
my
to
kids are
care for
homeschooled.
its community, right? Yep.
Yeah, my kids are homeschooled, and
We do the
for
same thing.
the co-op to get involved would be fantastic.
Okay. So there you go, Vic. I know some of you on the call, if you're pastoring a church, you've got a school in your church or a preschool in your church. So let me ask that question. If it's a private school, parochial school, how would they make sure, they could share needs with the local community there, just like a typical caseworker then? Or they have somebody from their church, school do that, or how would that work?
Yeah, so from a school like that, there's two sides of the thing.
Right?
There's the ones who
Right?
submit and ones who respond. What you just described, they could actually be on either side, right? So a
Okay.
school could be one that signs up as an agency, that's our language, and
Okay.
someone at the school would be notified of a need of a kid in that school and submit the need through the platform. That can happen. Or sometimes schools in more resourced areas are like, wow, we want to have an outreach opportunity. We want to rally around our
Yes.
community. So they could sign up as what we call a community champion, and they're able then to see needs as a school and look at them and
That's
help to
awesome.
meet the needs that are there. That both of those are possibilities depending on, what kind of school we're talking about.
Excellent. All right, friends, keep that in mind. That's excellent.
Oh,
Well, Adrian, I'm just going to kind of summarize here. So make sure you can go back in the chat, look at the link, go read the care sharing blog, share that with others if you're trying to help people kind of understand what this is about. Careportal.org is a great resource. They kind of walk you through everything there as well. But then also for those of you who said, you know what, I think that's something we ought to explore, find that leader, send them to Care Portal and fill out that form. And Care Portal themselves will walk you through all that. And then last but not least, that April conference that'll be in KC. If you want to go meet some other people who are in it, kind of kick the tires kind of thing, that's a great conference to attend. So, Adrian, just love it. It just has been very inspiring for me. You are a ministry. CarePortal is a ministry, friends, that we will be including in all of our conversations with the churches that we work with around the country. It's just an easy way to follow Jesus and to live out
Mm.
his commands of loving that widow and that orphan in your community. So, Adrian, thank you so much for being with me, with us. And thanks for doing some wonderful ministry and for heeding God's call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate the invite.